What's up, Banter fam? I'm your host, Miles, and in today's show, I'll be showing you my personal favorite strategy for minimizing risk and maximizing yield in crypto. With red days like today and market volatility at an all-time high, now more than ever, it's important to have a sound yield farming strategy, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do so today, meaning you can maximize your profits whilst mitigating your risk. Let's get straight into the show. So the market is quite red today, and I thought it was an opportune time to talk about risk mitigation. It's something that a lot of people in DeFi ignore, but I think it's a really crucial part of crypto, and I want to show you guys my strategy to mitigate risk and also maximizing your yield. Remember, in DeFi, it's all about risk reward. So if you don't have a good risk reward balance, then you're not doing it right. So in this video, I'm going to show you the way that you can do it right. And firstly, we have to address the biggest mistake that people make in DeFi. And this mistake is chasing the APR. So what will happen is when protocols first launch, they will often incentivize via offering emissions. So they'll boost the APR really high by flooding tokens onto the market. And a lot of investors are drawn to this because they see the super high APR and they ape into the protocol. So we have an example, for example, Time Wonderland, which was offering a really, really high APR. I think it was like a 1,000%, 5,000%, 10,000%, or maybe even more. And a lot of people were aping in order to get their hands on these tokens so they could get this really high yield. But what eventually ended up happening was the token was rebasing to death. So the more tokens that they put onto the market, the more dilution occurs, which means the token over time went down and down and down, and eventually the price crashed. Now, the same thing happened with Sunny. This was a token that even myself purchased last year and took quite a bad loss on because at first they incentivized the Sunny pools with a super high APR. People were earning crazy yield, 2, 3, 400% on their Sunny on Solana. And then what happened was they were flooding tokens out and out into the market, and the token price just crashed and kept going down. So this is a problem in crypto because a lot of people get sucked into chasing APRs. And I just want to say that that is not the way to go about crypto. You should be investing in quality tokens first and not investing in tokens solely because their APRs are super high, or this might happen to you. So two things happen. The first thing that happens in this case is that initial investors dump their tokens. So people that got in super early to projects, for example, Time and Sunny, like I just showed you, end up dumping their tokens when the APR is super high. Then when the APR starts dropping and the tokens are dumping onto the market, people start panicking. And this kind of causes a cascade of sellers. And it means that token price can keep dropping very fast. So what happens in crypto, as you know, is that the more people that enter a pool, the more diluted that pool becomes. Therefore, the APR of that pool drops. So if a pool is incentivizing with a super high APR, that means it attracts liquidity to come into that pool. But then, as the more liquidity comes in, that pool that then gets diluted and the APR comes down. So today's video is about making sure you guys can avoid that. And in times of market volatility, where yield farming is so important, this show's about making sure that you maximize your risk profile to make sure you're getting the best rewards possible out of your farms, but minimizing risk at the same time. So the first strategy that I want to talk to you guys about is diversifying across multiple pools. Now, one of the ways that you can do this is actually by taking advantage of stablecoin farming. Now, I give a lot of strategies out for stablecoin farming on these shows, but I wanted to make it very simple for you guys. So we've actually partnered, and this is a big announcement, guys. We've partnered with Donkey Finance to start my own copy farms. So you're actually going to be able to follow my own Donkey strategies in one click, which I think is super good because there's a lot of viewers that will watch these videos, see a strategy that I give you guys that might be quite complicated, and they're kind of overwhelmed by the steps that I take in the video. So I thought, how can we kind of solve this? And one of the ways we can solve this is me offering my own farms for you guys to be able to directly copy without having to go through the steps yourself. So I have launched some farms on Donkey where there's a link in the description, and they're now an official show sponsor, guys. So I just wanted to quickly explain this. It provides a good opportunity to earn yield on stables. So this farm is a stablecoin farm, and it's paying 27% APY. It's actually closer to 30% today. And this APY is given to you via staking BUSD so Binance USD, on the BSC chain, and it's deployed across multiple stable farms. So think of this as an ETF or an index fund of stablecoins that I'm packaging together, and it's one that I'm going to regularly update based on new stablecoin farming opportunities. So the safest part is the 40%, which we're putting into Anchor, but then we're doing a very interesting loop on Planet Finance. So we're taking UST, we're using that to borrow a UST, then we're staking it, and we're looping it with each other to get close to a 40% APR. We're also putting a little bit into Beefy, and we're also putting a little bit into the MyVault. But these farms are going to change. And that's a good thing, I guess, about copying these farms. It's that you guys can get continual updates without having to manually do it. It all automatically compounds for you, so you don't need to worry about coming in every day and compounding. And it's just an easy way to be able to farm your stables. Now, it's not the lowest risk farm in the world, I'll admit, because we do have slightly riskier stablecoins like My and Day in there. The reason we have them in there as a small percentage is because they're offering very high yields relative to the risk. But we are balancing that out with the safer plays on Anchor and Planet Finance as well, who are now also an official show sponsor. And Planet Finance is an awesome place on the BSC chain to be able to earn yield across multiple pools. So if we check out their pools, they have some great pools, stablecoins on Ethereum, USDC, Binance, which is a really great place to farm as well. So we're utilizing Planet Finance's protocol here to be able to facilitate this strategy. Now, remember that DeFi always carries a level of risk. So there are things that are out of my control. For example, depeg risk on the stablecoins, smart contract risk, etc. So I'd only invest in this pool if it's something you were going to do anyway. For example, if you wanted to invest in an Anchor UST loop, instead of doing it yourself, you could use my copy farm as a way to do that. But I wouldn't do it if you weren't already going to do stablecoins. So just be aware of the risk. But I think it's really cool because obviously it's an easy way to be able to farm stables. So that's one of the ways. And there's a link in the description. If you guys want to follow this, it's super easy. You literally just deposit BUSD and you get access to my stablecoin farming strategy. So link in the description if you guys want to get involved in that and earn some passive income on stables, because I do believe that stablecoin farming is one of the only ways that we can fight this market volatility at the moment. And it's one of the strategies that I personally like to be able to mitigate downside risk as you're continuing to earn yield on your stablecoins. So yeah, we're going to be launching many farms, not just the stablecoin farm. I wanted to start with this, but obviously I'll be doing farms across AVAX, Fantom, maybe even BSC, Matic, etc. in the future for you guys to be able to come in and copy. So that is really cool as well. But let's get into the meat of this video, because I found a strategy which I think is very, very advantageous. Obviously, doing stablecoin farms is one way to limit risk. But one of my researchers, SoundsTricky, came up with a very good risk mitigation strategy that he did a thread on. And I think it's a game changer in crypto. So I'm going to bring him on right now to explain to you what this strategy is and have a chat about one of the best ways that you can maximize rewards and mitigate risk in crypto. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
It's good to have you on. I mean, you've been helping me with research for a while, so it's awesome to finally get you on the show in front of the people.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Hello, everybody out there. Thanks for having me. It's good to finally be on the show and have a chat about all this stuff we're doing in the background.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys want to follow SoundsTricky, he does some awesome stuff on his Twitter, so his link is in the description. I guess I wanted to ask you, kind of just rolling back the clock a little bit. Obviously, you came up with this awesome strategy that we're about to show the audience, but it came up out of a bad experience that you actually had. So can you tell us the story of your big mistake and kind of how that led to this new strategy?
So I think kind of when you first get into DeFi, everyone kind of has the same approach and the same vibes about it. And you look at these APRs and APYs and they blow your mind. So when I first saw this one it was Qubit. It was on Pancake Bunny. Yeah, it was Pancake Bunny. And it was a Qubit finance protocol. And I saw it was 1200% APY and it blew my mind. So once you do the math on that, and you start thinking about how quickly you could turn $10,000 into $120,000, it just blows you away. And I was sure that this was my opportunity to financial freedom and I'm going to be rich now and happy days and blah, blah, blah. So I chucked in all my cash that I could get, which was about $7,500 at the time. And within the space of about 10 days, everyone started dumping their Qubit tokens. And the price of my LP went from about $7,500 down to about $1,500. So I got absolutely smashed. And it was, look, it was a real hard lesson to learn. But it was a really valuable lesson to learn because it kind of set me up for everything I've done since then. And I've really made sure that this wasn't going to happen again, because the last thing I got into this for was to lose money. I got into this to make money. So, I mean, the idea behind losing that kind of cash on a bad investment killed me. And I see people do it all the time. So after that happened to me, I really wanted to make sure that it wouldn't happen again. And I really wanted to see if we could come up with ways to make sure it doesn't happen to other people.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty terrible experience. I mean, you guys can see the chart here. I just completely dumped, and that's what happens when you chase the APR. So, what would you say were your main learnings out of this experience that you can take away from this that kind of led into you creating this strategy?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, and you've spoken about it heaps on this show, and it's the hardest one for everyone to grasp as well, is don't chase a high APR. Just don't do it. I've got this kind of golden rule now with everything to do with DeFi, is I have a 14-day rule. So I see something and I wait. Just wait it out. Give it 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, as we all know, is a lifetime. It's so full on. Waiting for 2 weeks in DeFi feels like forever. It feels like an eternity. But mark it on your calendar, put it down. Just make a little note to yourself and don't do anything before that, because in the first 14 days, almost every single pool I've ever seen will change drastically. You're talking about whether TVL goes up or down, whether the APR goes up or down, whether the value of the token goes up or down. All these factors go into it. So that's my first rule, is just wait it, give yourself a time, and then just give yourself a little space in there. And then once it's gone and it's settled down, that's when you can start deciding whether or not to invest. And then the second one, and probably the most important one, is just spread your risk. Don't put everything you've got into one pool, and it's that simple.
Yeah, I agree. I think spreading a risk is probably the best way to do it. You don't want to be just in one pool. You want to be in multiple pools. That's something in the donkey strategies we're trying to implement. We're trying to make sure that you're in multiple pools. Like the strategy I just showed before, like look at this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 pools. I mean, we may even do 5 or 6. So that's an example of, like, if you had stable coins yourself, you'd want to do something like this where you're spreading it across multiple different platforms. And as you said yourself, like if you're investing in Fantom or Beats or whatever, you want to be in multiple pools and not just one. So you did, off the back of that experience, which was a negative experience, you came up with what I think is quite a genius strategy for funneling profits into different pools. And it's kind of this strategy here. And I think we should run this by the community right now, because I think it is one of the best ways for you guys to be able to maximize profits and minimize risk. So if you want to just run us through kind of how this works, we can have a look at how you guys can implement this into your own trading strategies.
Yeah. So I think that the basis of it is that we want to get a high APR still. So we're not in this for 5% or 2% or even 8%, really. We're all in DeFi for more.
We're degens.
So yeah, we're all degens and we love it and we want a high APR. But I think the everything changes when the APR goes higher and the risk increases as the APR increases. You can almost correlate them probably. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to come up with a way where we can increase our APR, but also lower our risk. And the way to do this is obviously by splitting our capital over various pools, but it's also the way we feed our rewards from pool to pool. And that's probably the most important part of the strategy, because effectively what you're trying to achieve is you're trying to take your lowest portion of reward and turn it into your highest APR return, which basically tops it up. So you're balancing one out by the other. So I take something, for instance, like a stablecoin, and this is a good example here. You can see it in front of us. Is you've got the $1,500 in the stablecoin pool, which is running at 32% on this example, and we move that into. They are listed the wrong way around because it's high to bottom. But what you would effectively do is move the reward from the $1,500 into the pool that has the $500 in it, which is now rewarding you 317.
Yep.
So effectively you're taking the smallest portion of the reward and giving it the maximum return. And that's where the strategy really comes into play, because then each reward is feeding back onto itself through the loop.
So the first step, basically, guys, is pick 3 pools. Instead of going in with 1 pool, actually pick 3 that are varying in risk levels. So the example here is if you had $3,000, you put 500 into the highest risk, you put 1,000 into the medium risk, and then you put 1,500 into the lowest risk. In this example, stables. So it's tiered. You have more money in the lower risk stuff, and then as it gets progressively more riskier, you put in a little bit more money and then, a little bit less money and then a little bit less again. So with $3,000, that's how you break it down. So what SoundsTricky was talking about before with the profit funneling is this graphic here. So let's just run through this graphic and give the audience an idea of how this would look in real time.
Yeah. So you can see, I mean, what I've done is the amount is listed under each number for what the return is going to be. So I've gone through and I've based on these numbers, I've figured out what the return is going to be from each pool into the next. So if you have a look at week 1, we've got $1,500 in our stablecoin pool, and on 32% APR, that's going to return us $9 for the week. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but when you take that $9 and put it into the next pool, which is returning 317% APR, it bumps that right up. So you can see in week 1, that returns $30, and then the return from that funnels into the medium risk pool, which then returns $13.84. And so these keep folding back into each other. And if you skip ahead, you can see that as you're going through each week, these pools will start to go on that exponential, that compounding curve that we all love to talk about, and that, 12th wonder of the world that is compound interest. And they start to grow really quick. And then what you'll notice is that the pools start to catch up to each other over time because of the way they're feeding into each other. Now, again, this is all just hypothetical, and it's based on the fact that the values stay the same. And we know that's not going to happen. But the major idea is that initial pool that you've got on the start, that $1,500 in stable, or that 50% of your capital, is never going to change. So you're not risking that aspect of your investment. That's going to always be locked in.
Yeah, so basically you're doing exactly what we just told you here. You're putting progressively into the lower risk, medium risk, and high risk, and then you're actually funneling APR. So let's say you put $1,500 into the stablecoin pool. You're taking your rewards from that, and you're putting your rewards into the LP of the high risk pool. Then you're taking the rewards of the high risk pool and you're putting that into the medium risk pool. So all your rewards are siphoning around and around between the lowest risk to the highest risk to the medium risk, which then funnels back into the lowest risk. So it's the lowest risk rewards feed into the highest risk. The highest risk rewards feed into the medium risk. And then the medium risk rewards feed back into the lowest risk. So what this is doing is sounds tricky. It's not actually that tricky. It's if you just follow this this kind of guide here, it's pretty self-explanatory in the fact that you're able to spread out your risk over time. So you're getting diversification over time whilst maximizing rewards. So I think to just contextualize this for the audience,
just one more thing before we jump on. Sorry, just about it is this is not like, this is a blueprint, right? So I think it's important to say that this is an idea based on a blueprint that you can use to apply to whatever you like within this space. This is not something, that you just grab what we're saying and go ahead and just do that. Like you find the pools that suit you the best for what it is you're trying to achieve, and you find the tokens that you believe in, and you use this strategy to apply that to what you believe in. And that's the best way to move forward, because then no matter what happens, you've got faith in what you've done, and it's not just relying on what someone else has said.
For example, yesterday I did a video on NEAR protocol. If you really wanted to get into NEAR and you look at the farms, then you could implement it. So this ref NEAR pool is a bit riskier. That could be a high risk pool. The NEAR staked NEAR pool could be a low risk pool. And then you could pick another one, say Aurora NEAR, as your medium risk pool. So basically you got to pick an ecosystem you're bullish on, and then you've got to work out which one's the low risk pool, which one's the high risk pool, and which one's the medium risk pool. So you did exactly that on this in the Fantom ecosystem. You said your low risk pool was the Juice USDC, Day USDC. Yep. You said your high risk pool was the Scarab Fantom, and then you said your medium risk pool was the Liquid Driver Fantom. So 3 different pools, one at 32%, one at 300%, and one at 70%. all earning different rewards, and you're funneling the rewards between each other. So the stable APR goes into the high risk pool, the high risk APR goes into the medium risk, which goes back into the low risk pool. I think
Yeah,
that
I
was
think
quite a good one.
Yeah, and this loop's a really good example of the way the strategy can work. And the beauty of this as well is it's all sitting on Beethoven. So it's super easy to manage when you're looking at it like this. And also this gives a really good representation of the way that the loop should flow. And that's kind of key to the strategy, like we mentioned before. And it's, without trying to just repeat ourselves, it is the key to the strategy because the rewards are different based on the pools. And the idea behind it, and the biggest idea probably that I had when I was trying to come up with this, was that you want the pools over time, you want them to level out because you're
Yep.
hoping in the best case scenario. And when I look at this strategy, I go, okay, great. I'm a huge believer in Liquid Driver, right? So me putting $1,000 into Liquid Driver is cool because I'm going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right? I love Liquid Driver. So I want my money in that token anyway, because I think that in 2 years' time, that $1,000 is hopefully going to be worth $4,000 anyway. And the DAI stable pool, well, that's my mitigation risk pool because I'm saying to myself, if the market dumps tomorrow, then no matter what happens, I'm still going to have my $1,500. And then the high risk pool, well, that's where we're bumping up our APR and where there's a bit of risk. But the idea behind that, again, is to just push up that overall APR so we're getting a better return.
Chantal has a question here. He said, which how do you determine which pool is which level of risk? Well, it's simple. Like basically, it's based on two things. It's based on the APR. So the APRs that are lower will be lower risk. Usually, when the APR is higher, it's higher risk. But you also have to use personal judgment. For example, a stablecoin farm isn't going to be as risky as Fantom. Isn't going to be as.
Well, we there? Okay, he's jumped off. So basically, I'll pick it up for him. So certain pools aren't going to be as risky as others just because they're not. Token values change. If you're going into something that is a super high APR, then chances are it's going to be a riskier token because the protocols are using high APRs as a marketing tool to bring people in. And when they're really, really high, they're subsidizing that somehow. And that's generally with the token value. And that is because of the emissions.
Yeah, and you've also just got to use your judgment as well. Like as I was saying, a
That's
stablecoin
crucial.
isn't as risky as a Fantom, and then Beats is even riskier again because it's an ecosystem under Fantom. Just for
Correct.
an example, so it's a mixture of the APR and also judgment as well. I just wanted to say that if you guys enjoyed SoundsTricky, make sure to blow up his Twitter because I'd like to have him on the show again. I think his content's really good, and he's also helping me with research for these shows every single day. So he does a lot of great work behind the scenes. So make sure you follow him. Link in the description to his Twitter. Let's see if we can blow it up. I see you've been getting some followers. I'm refreshing and
Blow it
the
up.
number go up. So that's awesome. And as well, if you want to get involved with the stablecoin farming, you can do so now. You can copy my personal stablecoin farming strategy on Donkey. Always beware of the risks in crypto. As I mentioned before, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just giving you guys a strategy that I think could potentially be a good way to earn 27% on your stables. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, smash the like button. I will see you in the next one. Peace out. They can still hear us.